Chapter 29 identifies some of the professional and ethical standards to be aware of as a counselor. This includes continuing professional education to maintain your professional competence, and is one of the reasons that there is a continuing education requirement in the state law. You should know the RAS Code of Ethics, which is reprinted on page 340, and you should know the scope of practice of the registered addiction specialist as reprinted on page 341. Understand that recovery is a long-term process, and that relapse is not failure but is part of that process. Understand the definition of relapse and what relapse may consist of. When is relapse likely to occur? What questions should be asked or discussed in response to a relapse? Identify the factors that may help to ensure or assist in a sober recovery, such as those included on the bottom of page 349. Chapter 31, starting at page 355, identifies and discusses various therapeutic counseling approaches. You should know the three basic theoretical schools, which are dynamic, behavioral, and existential. And more specifically, you should know the characteristics of psychoanalysis, of person-centered therapy, and of rational emotive therapy. These are included on pages 356 through 361. Also, you should know what is involved in behavioral therapy, as described on page 362, and reality therapy, as described on pages 365 and 366. Know what the 3 R's of reality therapy are, as described in this section. A discussion of assertiveness and honest communication is included in Chapter 32, which begins at page 367. The counselor should understand the differences between these communications and behaviors. Understand the meaning of the terms in bold in the beginning of this chapter 33, such as implied contract, fiduciary relationship, abandonment, and termination. Know the meaning of these terms and understand that meaning, such as know when care for a client may or may not be terminated by a therapist. Know what is included in informed consent. Know the meanings of transference, counter-transference, and also know when a conflict of interest may arise. Know about the confidentiality laws identified on page 375 and what is required before a treating person may reveal information about a client. Know the information highlighted in bold type on pages 376 through 378, including the meaning of respondeat superior. One of the obligations of a professional counselor is to respect the traditions of AA, and you should know the reason for the tradition of anonymity as described on page 379. Also, you should know which traditions forbid self-identification as an AA member through the media, even though one is allowed freely to identify himself or herself as an alcoholic. Also understand the professional's obligation to respect other professionals and other agencies. A profession is supposed to be self-regulating, acting from professional integrity rather than fear of prosecution or lawsuits, and should adhere to a code of ethics. Understand the obligations in the publication and public speaking when utilizing material from other people. This is outlined on page 383. Finally, you should know the ethical code that is presented on pages 384 through 392 that comes from the National Board for Certified Counselors. The NBCC Ethical Code is a comprehensive code, and there will be several questions on the RAS examination that will require your knowledge of this code. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits public and private employers from discriminating in employment. The law prohibits intentional discrimination as well as neutral job policies that exclude minorities and that are not job-related. You should understand the protections afforded by the Civil Rights Act, the Age Discrimination Act, the ADA or Americans with Disabilities Act, as well as the Equal Pay Act. You should know that sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination that violates Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. You should know what constitutes sexual harassment and under what circumstances sexual harassment may occur. You should also know that the EEOC considers prevention as the best tool to eliminate sexual harassment in the workplace.